seed for the company really started with us scratching our own itch in a way. I mean, I've been working on data projects for probably at least a decade, looking at how do we take complex data and make it understandable to others. And what was fun about this is that, at the time I'd also, just finished up my PhD at Berkeley, where I'd worked with Hellerstien as a member of my committee. So we had lots of fun conversations thinking through some of these issues and thought, hey, this would be a great research project to go together with his expertise in databases and mine in user interfaces and visualization.
Jeff was already clearly one of the world leaders in data visualization. I said, gosh, I have to keep working with this guy. When I graduated from graduate school, I was looking around for what's the next big thing in data management.
The missing piece of the puzzle, of course, was Shankhu. Kind of showed up in my office one day. So he was a brand new PhD student at Stanford in the computer science department where I'd been teaching at the time. I'd given a lecture on some of the research we were doing in my group, and he stopped by and said, hey, this looks really interesting. I'd like to get involved. And it really just kind of fell right into place, the three of us working together.
Every time I needed to work with a new data source, it was this really time-intensive task. It required a lot of programming, a lot of scripting, just to get the data that I needed in a format that was useful for my analysis. I started just building tools for myself to make my job easier. And as I was doing that, I started thinking, well, if I'm having this problem, is this the same type of problem that other people who work with data are having? I left my job and I went to grad school to work with Jeff, who ultimately became my advisor. And we started thinking, can we use the same kind of visualization and interaction techniques that he was applying to a number of other problems and use those techniques to make data wrangling more accessible and easier for people who work with data every day.
3 years later, Sean finished his PhD. We'd explored a number of interesting ideas on how to make data preparation and data transformation much more accessible and rapid. And at that point, it was time to take it out into the world.
We were very deliberate when we started the business that we weren't doing a research project on someone else's dime. We were building tools that real people would use that would make their work better. So a lot of that involved going out to users and finding out where their pain points were and really understanding what was missing from the software ecosystem that they needed. And in so doing, we discovered that the work we were doing in research was actually pretty relevant.
We wanted to understand what are the biggest problems people have working with data. We went and interviewed dozens of analysts from a number of different organizations and asked them, what do you do all day? And in particular, what are your biggest challenges in what you do every day? And time again, we heard similar stories, whether they called it data cleaning, data munging, data wrangling, data preparation. They were struggling just to get data that was useful for their analysis.
The data wrangling, like simply put, is getting data to a usable, useful state. So data occurs in all sorts of ways. It's generated by people, it's generated by machines. Sometimes it's created or collected for specific purposes, and many times then repurposed towards other uses. And it's also something else, which is not just what you're doing in terms of getting the data ready, but it's about building up your understanding of that data so that as you're going through this process, how are you understanding the strengths and weaknesses of the data? What types of questions is it well suited to answer? What limitations might it have? And you're gaining a lot of that understanding and then hopefully being able to transmit it to others through the process of data wrangling.
Everybody knows organizations are collecting more data than ever before, and their ability really to compete and ultimately succeed is going to depend on their ability to use that data to make better decisions about their customers, their products, their operations.
We're really breaking enormous boundaries in the way that people interact with data, which is going to be one of the fundamental things we do in the 21st century to move the society forward.
Built into the company DNA from the start, we very intentionally wanted to have a wide focus. So not purely kind of a classical engineering thing, but really drawing on human-computer interaction, design, distributed systems, programming languages, really trying to understand the broad perspectives that we were thought necessary to really crack the problem.
When you look at the hammer of a dedicated carpenter, this is something that sort of, you can see both hard work on it, you can see love in it, and it really is a beautiful thing, even though it's a simple thing. These are the kinds of experiences we're striving for and the kinds of technologies we're trying to build. What are the beautiful, powerful tools for people who work with data over the next century?
When I think about a data analyst and how much time each day they're spending working with data, that job should be fun, right? Not just easy, but it really should be fun for them to do. And I think everyone here is motivated to build a product that takes what used to be this very tedious, time-consuming task and making that a fun process that's enjoyable.
So we put out a research prototype, and that done a lot in proving that there was an interesting market to address and people who really had suffering from the problems that we were trying to help. But I like to think of us like we're a rocket, or a spaceship on the launch pad. We fired the booster rockets. We're beginning to take off, and we're trying to see where we're going to go next.
I think the next decade, 2 decades, we're going to see unbelievable strides in the way that humans and data and computation all come together. And to be in the midst of that, building the tools that people use is incredibly invigorating.
To solve data wrangling, you need effective visualization and interaction, scalable distributed systems for processing data, and machine learning to drive all of the recommendations that we provide in the product. Bringing all those 3 things together, really we call kind of the trifecta, or the trifecta of the facts about working with data.
We enjoy working together, we enjoy hanging out together, and also having the environment that has the right balance of both.